But of course, then there's the sitting behavior may also be detrimental, because I do believe there's a lot of medieval torture that happens in beds and chairs as well. So those are the main myths that I wanted to cover, and then really just spend a couple of minutes walking you through some strategies to help you get started. And so the first is, in the handout, is something that I've developed through research in terms of looking at an exercise contract. And a contract is something, when you read what is given to you there, it's very lengthy and wordy. And I encourage you to use it as a template, but not necessarily to use the one that I've given you. I've tried to make it as flexible as I can, and many people do like that one. But what's important is a contract is an agreement to yourself that you will actually do a little bit more exercise tomorrow than you did today. And that's all I'm asking you to put in your contract. If you have it witnessed by someone else, it even keeps you more accountable, because you've actually asked someone else to hold you accountable to that. And I also suggest that posting it and rereading it is extremely beneficial for long-term success. Now, the research in the research environment, people who sign a contract are over 50% more likely to stick to their plan than people who don't sign a contract. So your little signature on that page and posting it is setting you up for some adherence to your exercise protocol. So I strongly suggest that you do some form of contract to yourself in terms of helping you start or continue on your exercise goals. So this is just the contract that I've put up there, and again, the signature to yourself is essential. It didn't fit on the page there, so I had to put it in in quotations there. And then the second strategy that I wanted to cover is goal setting. And really, we hear goal setting in every facet of life. You've heard it in work, you've heard it in school, you've heard it all the way through our lives, how goal setting can help with everything that we do. And so it's one of the challenges that we have, because I know as a practitioner that goal setting works. It works really, really well. But less than 10% of our population actually do it, and do it well. And so I've given you the strategies again in the handout to try to help you walk through how you set goals that you may stick to, and that may help you stick to your exercise program. So I use the principle of AIMS, which are like goals, meaning the A stands for achievable. So one of the biggest things with goal setting that we see often in New Year's resolutions, I'm going to lose 20 pounds this year. Well, I've never lost 20 pounds in my life. Why would I say I'm going to lose 20 pounds this year? What makes this year any different than any of my other years of my life? So setting a goal that's achievable for you, not for anyone else. Oftentimes people also set goals because someone sitting beside them set that goal, or because your family member is setting that goal. Again, it's not achievable for you. So number one principle, set achievable goals. Number two, again, it goes back to sort of number one, but it has to be important to you. So it can't be something that someone else is setting for you, including your doctors. If your doctors are telling you you need to exercise, but you don't want to exercise, it's not going to help. So really, it has to be important to you. You have to find that exercise that you find enjoyable and that's important for you in order to get started. Measurable. So your goal has to be measurable. I use the example here. People say, well, I want to reduce my stress. I'm too stressed. I want to reduce it. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? How will you know a month from now that you've reduced your stress? How can you measure that? So one of the strategies in terms of making a goal that's more measurable is to say, I'm going to sit quietly for 10 minutes, or I'm going to give myself 10 minutes a day to do nothing. And that will then lead to lower levels of stress. 10 minutes a day I can measure. Reducing my stress I can't. Same thing, oftentimes, again, back to weight. People often say, well, I want to lose weight. Well, what is it about losing weight that you want to do? Losing weight is not measurable. I want to lose 2 pounds. I want to lose 5 pounds. Then it's measurable. And that sets me to the last one there, specific. So again, instead of I want to lose weight, you have to be specific in terms of that amount of weight that you're losing, or in terms of if it's stress and you're measuring your stress levels on a scale, then you could say how much you want to improve. Specific goals also have to be something that's in your control. So it has to be something that you can actually physically do. So in order to do that, there's main principles around goal setting, and that includes setting smaller goals that lead to a bigger goal. So it's always important to have a big goal in mind, but then to have smaller goals that work up to that big goal, because otherwise you have no path to get to that larger goal. And why it's really important is because setting smaller goals gives you the chance to evaluate those small goals along the way and alter them if you need to, modify them if you need to, get rid of them if they're not working for you, and add new goals towards that larger goal. If you only have the large goal, you have no mechanism to tell you how you're doing until you either reach it or most people don't reach it. So having those smaller goals allows you to see where you're at, reassess where you're at, feel good about yourself that you're achieving the smaller goals that are leading towards that larger goal. And that's really important. One of my colleagues at Concordia University does a lot of research on goal disengagement and re-engagement, and his research, predominantly with older adults, shows that individuals who are able to give up on goals that they've set and to then re-engage in new goals, and they've set them because they think they can achieve them and then they can't, to take that goal and say, screw it, I don't care about that goal anymore, I'm going to set this new goal, which may be exercising a little bit less, losing a little bit less weight, whatever it is, are much healthier, are more likely to achieve their goals, have lower levels of stress, have higher levels of quality of life. So this ability of assessing your goals and reassessing and reevaluating is extremely important for overall health. So on your handout, I gave you an example of, we often use this mountain as an analogy for goal setting, saying that if you make it to the top of the mountain, that's your final goal. And then we want to know how you're going to get there. So what are your smaller goals that allow you to get to that larger goal? You know, when we do research with athletes, we tend to use something that's analogous to their sport, for example, to say how they're going to get to that larger goal. So it's really whatever works for you. But what's important, again, is to write these smaller goals, a larger goal, to post this somewhere, to come back to it often, reevaluate it, see how you're doing, give yourself a pat on the back when you actually reach them. Maybe set yourself up some rewards. When I reach this goal, I will do this, or I will give myself this, etc. And it's extremely important for overall health and adherence to your exercise program. The other one that I wanted to focus on was emotional control, because exercise really makes people frustrated. Again, going back to the, is it really enjoyable? Oftentimes, people are hardest on themselves when they don't engage in exercise, or they try and they don't feel like they can do it, mostly because the goals that they set are too high and not achievable. But what often happens is we set ourselves up for failure. We just say, we set these really hard, lofty goals, we can't achieve them, we say, oh, crap, I didn't do that today. Oh, I didn't do that today again. Oh, well, I guess that's out the window, I'm not going to start exercising now. And we really are the hardest on ourselves about exercise and about diet. And so one of the keys is really about self-talk. And it's really about that dialogue that I just had outward. But to tell yourself that if you're thinking negatively about your exercise, is to really try to change that wording so that it's not about the negatives, but about the positives. So if I didn't do it today, I'm going to try to do it tomorrow. And really stop, or even just stopping yourself from thinking the negatives. And so that often works with people. You can hear different people that we work with actually tell themselves, stop, like you're not doing yourself any favor right now. Think about something else. So stopping your thoughts, changing the negative thoughts to the more positive thoughts. A good example of self-talk is also countering. So I can't run this fast, or I can't walk this fast if you're walking beside someone else or something. But I can walk fast longer, or I can be out here longer. So focus on something that you can do rather than things that you can't do is extremely important overall. And I'll just give you one quick thought on that too, is that self-talk in the literature is known to be extremely effective. And so people who, when we do studies where we have people think negatively about themselves, about what they're doing, they actually perform worse than if we have them think positively. And for me personally, I never really I thought that was all kind of wishy-washy. And then when I lived in Vancouver, I had to bike up this enormous hill every day to get to school. And I hated this hill. And every day I would leave my house and I would say, oh God, I can't get up this hill. And then as I saw it, every day I would say to myself, I can do this. This looks like fun. I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to do this. And on the days where I could actually think positively, I got up that hill, no problem, and felt wonderful about myself. On the days where I forgot to tell myself how good I was going to feel, I hated every minute of it. It put me in a bad mood. I thought all the time about how I felt afterwards. I was out of breath and I hated it. But if I focused on the positives, I actually did it. I felt way better. And that really changed my mind. Even though I knew in the literature it worked, it really did change my mind personally. And I encourage you to find that for yourself when you start exercising. Think about how you can think positively. And then the last strategy that I have is in terms of looking at motivation. And this is a real key. I think the second lecture series in this series will probably talk a lot about motivation. But today, the key is to really, again, coming back to finding exercise that you enjoy. And if you're doing an exercise for reasons that are external to you, because someone told you to do it or because you're going to feel guilty if you don't, you're not going to sustain that long term. It may get you started, but long term, you have to find something that you're doing for yourself to feel good about yourself and about what it is that you're doing. And so some of the ways that you can do that, again, the best exercise is the one you like. Develop a routine. So finding time in your day when you can actually incorporate exercise and pay attention to how you feel after. Most people think about, oh, I don't want to get out the door right now. I can't stand up from the couch, or this is a really important program. I really can't miss it. I can't get up. If you actually do it and you find ways of doing it and focusing on how you feel after, you'll actually realize that you're getting extreme benefits from that. Be confident. So don't do something that you can't do. Don't choose an activity because you read somewhere that it's beneficial if you don't feel comfortable doing it. Many people read that swimming's great but don't like doing it. So don't try to set out your exercise routine to start swimming if it's not comfortable for you. Find an activity that's within your control. This is just a quote from another cancer survivor that we had doing, this was Dragon Boat, another Dragon Boater actually, and I'll just let you read that quote. And I think that resonates with a lot of people in the same situation, is that you're told what not to do and what to take and all that, and exercise is something that you can actually control. You can actually do it. You have control over it. You can find the activity that you like. And then keeping track. So keep track of when you do exercise and how much you're able to do. Even do little tests with yourself every now and then. Do a walk around a park or around your house, time yourself, and a month later do it again and see how well you're doing. It's extremely important for giving you a little pat on the back every now and then. These are just some devices that are out there to help you keep track of exercise. I won't go through them, but in general, there's a ton of opportunities out there if you are interested or you like little gadgets to help you pay attention to how well you're doing. Things from pedometers to the Nike Fuel Bands. The Fitbit is one that researchers in my lab have done a lot of research on. Validity testing shows really great promise. I've had a lot of discussions about that one in particular recently in terms of the benefits of keeping track of exercise. Okay, and then just some final thoughts. Really just to summarize what I've been saying today, we know that across the board people decrease their physical activity levels after having cancer. We know that going through cancer treatments decrease physical activity, but we also know that physical activity can stop many of those detriments. And so that's the frustrating paradigm, is that physical activity goes down during treatment, but if people were physically active during treatments, many of the side effects would actually be eliminated. We know that exercise is feasible and safe. In this case, I wrote breast cancer, but really most of the cancers now, what we need to focus on is the comorbidities and the associated risk factors that come with going through cancer, and that's where physical activity plays a significant role long-term in survivorship. We also know that physical activity is associated with many benefits. But what we don't know is really what is the optimal type and dose of exercise. If people engage in yoga, how effective is yoga? If people are doing some of the more traditional exercises, are they that much better or worse than other types of exercise? We don't really know that yet. What we do know is, again, any exercise is beneficial. And again, as I mentioned earlier today, we don't understand the mechanisms. We don't know why physical activity protects people from cancer in the first place, for some but not for others. We don't know why it affects side effects. And we don't know why it helps with reduced risks of recurrence, but we know it does. So until we get further research out there, we can't explain the why, but we do know that it's a plausible cause. So I just want to leave you with one final quote from myself. That being, if you can get yourself out the door with your walking shoes on, you won't regret it. It's that first step out the door that is extremely painful for most of us. We always look outside, we always say, I can't do it, or the program's beneficial, but I promise you, if you actually make that first step out, you will not regret it. You will enjoy every minute of it from that moment forward. So thank you very much. I'll end it there.